Watch the company that you keep. If you look at your 3, 4, 5 best friends, the people that you hang around, make sure that you're not just the smarties. Everybody looked for you for good grades. Make sure that you are running with people that are stretching you to do greater things and to explore outside of even your comfort zone.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be the journey.
The journey.
New sheriff in town, and his name is the journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is the journey.
The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey. The journey. The journey.
Welcome back to another episode of The Journey. And today, I can promise you, we have not let you down, but we've never let you down. So just hold on. But first, we got our quote, but then we're going to get to our guest. But the quote says, all things that are worth doing take time. And that's from Mos Def. Some of you guys know him today as Yasin Bey. But I would say that this quote applies to our guest. Our guest is Ed Stanton III, lifelong Memphian, former U.S. attorney, corporate attorney, partner now at Butler Snow, graduate of Central High School, and man, he's just a loyal father, son, friend, husband. He's just an all-around good dude. And like I said, lifelong Memphian. So today, we welcome in on the journey, Brother Ed Stanton III. Hey, Ed.
Always
how you doing,
pleasure,
man?
Sir. Doing well. Doing well.
Absolutely.
Robinson, good to see you, man.
Good, man. Thank you for it's good to be seen, as they say.
Yes, sir.
So listen, we're going to jump right in.
All right.
So early years. Where'd you spend your early years? We said lifelong Memphian, so tell us about your neighborhood.
Absolutely. Grew up in South Memphis and Whitehaven. Some people call it Black Haven, but started off at Alton Elementary School in the heart of South Memphis, stone's throw from Southside High School, and that's where I got my learning, and when I got out of line, my burning.
Okay. Yeah. Outside of your parents, who was someone that made a big impact on you?
Yeah, great question. My parents, and actually, I know it's cliches, but actually my grandparents. I saw two grandfathers who were employed by the U.S. Postal System and retired from there. And not only my parents, but my grandparents both had holy matrimony over 50 plus years. And so really to see two grandfathers and a father to show me how to be a man and raise a family and take care and provide, those are my heroes.
What impact would you say, give me a story that your grandfather may have had on you as a young person, something that just kind of comes to mind? Yeah,
so there's actually a picture I have in my office now, and it's a picture of my grandfather. He was one of the first, they call it letter carriers in North Memphis, and there's a picture of him, and there's about 2 rows of individuals of his colleagues in front of the post office there in North Memphis, and he's the only black male or black letter carrier at the time, and it's just powerful. And now that I'm at a firm, and some of the things that I've done to be able to, wish he could be here to see the fruition of his seeds, and he would talk about how he had a teacher that really stuck with him and said, Stan, you'll never be any more than a garbage man. You just told him he would never be anything in life. And what he left not only was, he was turned out to be a great businessman, but a great name and a great name. And so I stand on the shoulders of Ed Stanton Sr. and my father, of course, Jr. But those are just having a work ethic, Larry, and just seeing him provide everything from selling watermelons when he had to retire from for disability from the Postal Service, still being a provider in real estate and actually becoming a great entrepreneur.
Wow, that's interesting because my grandfather had a similar impact on me. So going back still, how different are you from the dreams of your childhood? So let me say that differently. As a kid, I dreamed of being an NBA ball player. Okay. What dreams did you have as a kid?
That's, coming up, I thought I wanted to play ball, and then after...
Really? When you realize that it wasn't going to happen?
After I stopped growing and everybody else did, and being 5 plus 5'5", 5'7", that just wasn't going to cut it at Central High School, or that matter, Bellevue High School, but actually grew up playing basketball at the Davis YMCA over in Whitehaven off of Elvis Presley, and actually as some great group of folks, including former Superintendent Dorsey Hobson, and a number of us were on that team. But so I had realized sports may not be my bag. And then I got interested in politics and the law. But yeah, early on, you couldn't have told me that I wouldn't be. I had my not Air Jordans, but Sky Jordans. My feet were so small I had to get the Sky, the knockout. Well, they were the real ones, but they were the small, the Sky Jordans. And just realized that wasn't going to work out, so we had to go to Plan B.
All right. So when did you know you were going to be okay? At what point in your, I guess, the spectrum of your life that you were able to say, I can do this. I'm good.
Yeah. So I just throughout school, and that was the thing, I would try to associate and surround myself with individuals that were smart individuals and people that were going places. And I realized at a young age that I wanted to, and we had a great household, I guess middle class or close to middle class as you could come. But just seeing things on TV and seeing whether it was athletes or seeing actors or just folks, quite frankly, in the political realm. And Jesse Jackson, I remember him giving speeches, and You Can, and Keep Hope Alive, and things of that nature that really kind of struck a chord with me. And that's when I realized, you know what, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do, but I know I want to make an impact and make a name for myself.
When did you know that you could achieve at a high level? When was there a moment that you said, wait a minute, I'm pretty good?
Yeah. I think maybe you mentioned Central High School. When I got to Central, some of the best and the brightest minds were great school. You call it the high school. You've heard the lingo there. But in all honesty, I mean, it was some of the most brilliant backgrounds and people from different socioeconomic groups and racial and ethnic groups. And when I realized that, hey, I can make it here, and some kind of way I was elected or named Mr. Central, and that gave me a little bit more confidence than my peers. Somebody thought enough of me to vote for me for whatever that was worth. But that gave me, and the professors, that gave me a lot of confidence that I can compete on the stage as I was getting ready to transition into college.
Makes sense. What's your why? Why you get up every day and do it? Fight the good fight.
So a couple of things. One, to make a difference, but really for my family, to provide. And while I've been able to accomplish a few things, I want I was mentioning to you, I have 2 high schoolers now, and want them to go on and carry the torch and blaze their own paths and to provide for them to ensure that they can live their dreams. But most importantly, as I mentioned, make a difference. I try to live by the mantra. My favorite quote from Dr. King is that life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? So it's not how much money you make, how many titles and letters behind or in front of your name, but what are you doing for others? And I really try to make that the staple and guidepost of why I get up every morning. What
does the word legacy mean for you?
One, a good name. As I mentioned, my grandfather, I want to make sure that I uphold those values when I talk to folks who knew my grandfather, that the Stanton name, and be able to pass that down. I'm the third, my son is the fourth, but to be able to leave and hand off the baton, and also for them, for my family, and for those that come behind me to do even greater things. I've accomplished a few things, but I want to make sure that they're equipped with the tools and understand that they're walking through, and we all are walking through doors that we didn't build, standing on shoulders that, again, we're the beneficiaries of. And so that's what legacy means to me.
All right, cool. All right, this is the last question of this segment. And it's always a kind of hard question because every brother has that moment. So I'm going to ask you, what was that moment that you realized that you were Black?
Okay, that's a good...
Hold on, before you say before you tell me. Listen, we're going to be right back on the other side with Brother Stanton. He's going to tell you when he realized he was a brother. Right back.
KUDZUKIAN.
Is based in Memphis, but it is international.
A new building, an expanded team, new equipment,
a new studio, all inside of 7 years.
The resources that we were able to utilize with KUDZUKIAN and their team has been incredible. And our partners at KUDZUKIAN has been a large part of our success.
One, it's Black owned. So we get to tell our own stories in our own way. I'm so proud of the founder, Larry Robinson, and his entire family and all of the team here at KUDZUKIAN.
We are so proud of their progress that they've made here in Memphis.
With social media and the technology we have today, the world is listening.
KUDZUKIAN. Check out all your KUDZUKIAN favorites now. Download the KUDZUKIAN app, available on Android and iOS.
Welcome back to The Journey on the KUDZUKIAN Network. Today, we have Brother Ed Stanton, attorney, partner at Butler Snow. But he's a lifelong Memphian and has really gone the gamut. Bellevue Middle School, Central High School, University of Memphis and College. So listen, before we left, we were talking about when did Brother Stanton realize that he was a Black man? So Brother Stanton.
Well, that's a good question. And as I give it some thought, Robinson, I believe it was clearly when I mentioned I started off in South Memphis at Alton Elementary School. My mom was one of those parents that spent the night at the board or stayed down there for a night or so to get me into, there was something new called the optional school program. And so I went from living in Whitehaven and going to school in South Memphis, and all of a sudden I was launched from a 100% Black school, Alton, to Ottawa Elementary in my 5th grade year. And that was the first time that I really had interaction with any other race outside of my own and people who didn't necessarily look like me. And so to answer your question, I believe it was the day that, and I won't call this person's name, but a young person in my class that happened to call me the N-word. And where I was from, in the heart of, Whitehaven, Blackhaven, South Memphis, that was something that was, and so that was, we had to handle some things.
You threw hands.
We had to handle some things after. I had to let them know how it goes down. But it was interesting. There were only a couple of other folks that looked like me in that class, and they had. The statute of limitations may have passed on some of the conduct that may have occurred back in my 5th grade year.
They can't come back,
but I'll just leave it. That's when I realized, and that's when I think some other people realized that, hey, you can't talk to me that way. And I realized that there was just a different mindset of some folks that for years to come, I'd realized that that's always going to be with us, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So let's rewind. Go back. Way back.
All right.
We're going to go to that childhood. You're in Idlewild, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. Tell us about what was that kid like and what was motivating that Ed Stanton III?
Yeah, I was never lacking for confidence. I think in most of my classes, oftentimes I was one of the shortest guys in the class, and I turned that around and made that a positive. I was always going to be out front and one of the first, and I was never, at a loss for making friends. Right. I was never afraid to kind of reach across the aisle and meet and talk to someone new, and so that was just kind of the start of just, from a life of public service, of just saying, hey, I want to give back. Speaking of Ottawa, I remember I ran my first campaign, Larry, that was for student council in the 5th grade. I wanted to represent.
You've been a politician for a while.
Well, public servant, but I wanted to make a difference for the 5th graders, and 12, 13 years old, 11, 12 years old, and I ran and successfully lost that. It was my first campaign that I ran and lost, but it made it simply, the premise there, I wanted to make a difference for in the cafeteria, whatever my platform was back then. But
so what was the home life like? I mean, was it brothers, sisters?
Yeah. So man, I was very fortunate and blessed, as I mentioned earlier. So I had a father and a role model, mother, graduate of Lemoyne on college, and then she went on to get her master's from very few at the time at Memphis State University, African Americans, particularly females, matriculating through there. My father was a longtime county government employee and public servant. 2 sisters, I'm in the middle, so I have we're all 4 years apart. Older sister, Arnetta, who works senior VP at MIFA in public service, and then my youngest sister, she's with the board over the Board of Equalization, so for the county. So again, it's kind of ingrained in us. But that was so family life was great. Like I said, we didn't realize what we didn't have until we got older and saw some things. But faith and family, that was what was the cornerstone of. We were at church at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Wow.
That was had a praying mother and grandmother, and and that made a tremendous difference, just being that institution of faith and family.
I've had the pleasure of meeting your dad, and it's interesting because you're right. You guys are really a family of public servants, and it's pretty impressive. So going back, fond memories. What was a fond memory of you back in those early days, elementary days?
Yeah, man, I was just like any other kid, man. Kickball, and we call May days or field days, and just get out and just have some fun.
May days.
It's a little different now in the climate that we're in, but just really just getting out. And there was always in my household just a emphasis on education and doing your best. And at the same time, I will tell you that some of my toughest challenges is if I ever had bad conduct grades. So it's one thing is you don't make an A or B, but you can keep your mouth closed and don't embarrass me, boy, when you go to school. And so that was always important in my family, and I would be more afraid of bringing home not only a bad grade, but certainly a conduct grade. Okay. And again, in life, learning more of how that conduct and that premise in elementary school and junior high will navigate a lifetime.
College. How did you, when you're going from Central High School to college, how did you choose University of Memphis over your parents at HBCU?
Yeah,
your boys went to HBCU.
They sure did, and many of my friends, as you know, they went to the Morehouses, the Howards, the FAMUs, and it was the case was made very plainly in my household. My father saw and parents saw that I had a full ride to Memphis State at the time, a leadership scholarship, something new that they had that my guidance counselor at Central found and connected me with. There was no question. They said you can go wherever you want to, but as far as free 99 and having a full ride, this is where we're going to support you. And it turned out to be. So you're right. Most of my friends did go off and they did some really great things. But from preschool to law school, educated right here in the public school system.
Did you ever regret not going off?
No
to school?
regrets. I made I had a great time. Learned a lot, did a lot, partied a lot, had a lot of fun. Pledged the greatest fraternity.
Don't do that. Don't do that. We'll be in here
we won't. But so I felt like I lived on campus and then had an apartment later, and so I felt like I had the best of both worlds. And to finish school in 4 years with no debt, and actually 7 with law school with no student loans. I mean, I look back and that was a blessing. Yeah,
absolutely. So transition to adulthood, married, wife, kids. Tell me about the Mrs. and what role does she play in the life of their son?
Yeah, so it's fortunate. I've known my wife, and speaking of the faith and family, we grew up at the same church. She was actually one of my older sister's best. She's a little older, a few years older than me. Best friends, and so it was kind of a full circle of how
she was Cradle Robin.
Well, it all worked out. It all worked out. And we didn't plan it that way, but she had moved away and she finished at Christian Brothers and was living in Middle Tennessee. But long story short, it was someone that I'd always admired from afar, and just kind of how fate brought us back together. It was one of those things, Larry, quite frankly, because I'd known her for so long and our families were somewhat connected. It was either going to be a wonderful thing, which it turned out to be, or the biggest disaster ever. And so, but my wife, May, has been really the backbone and staple of our family. And a lot of times I get all the credit and I've had, the titles and things of that nature, but the person that's making sure that our kids, when daddy is had to go to Washington, D.C. or dealing with a big, high profile criminal case or whatever the matter is, but having that base of support and love at home. And she is in her own right. She's a realtor now. Back then she was in HR, had a very lucrative career at an international paper. Wow. And gave all of it, as well as sophomore at Tronic, but gave all that up to support me in my efforts. And so 2 wonderful kids, Edward IV, a son who's a 9th grader, and Mackenzie Zora, who's a junior and co-captain of the mock trial team at White Station Middle, and making Dad proud. And they won the city championship the last tournament, so they're about to tee it back up in the next couple of days, actually.
Cool. All right. So your career, you've kind of had a real interesting career with a lot of different opportunities. What role has been the most rewarding for you?
That's easy. That to be tapped and nominated by President Obama in 2010, Larry, as you know, to be the United States Attorney for the district where I was born and raised, to be the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer for 22 counties in West Tennessee. and every day being able to make a difference and, fight the good fight. And as we talked about earlier, it was more than just locking folks up, but being able to put in some means and measures of preemptive and proactive and getting out into the community and sharing my story with a number, going back to Central or Alton or Ottawa and sharing with the young men and women.
What was that call like? The day you got that call, take us there for a quick, brief second.
Yeah, I still remember I was an attorney at the time at FedEx. I was traveling back for a case, and at the time I remember I had a connection in the Detroit airport, trying to head home from Memphis after a long day of, I can't remember, depositions or pretrial for a case I had out of town. And I checked my phone when I got to Detroit, and it was one of those things like I had to play it back a couple of times because it didn't. And I shared it with my wife, and I think I called my father. But it was the White House calling, and it was just humbling, and it was just like you take again from Whitehaven to a White House appointment. It's nobody but God, and just I'm very, very appreciative and honored to have served. But that's by far. I've done a number of things in corporate law, as you mentioned. Now I'm a partner at a firm that I truly enjoy. But being able to serve and going back to that mantra, what are you doing for others? And so it was more than just locking the bad folks up, but that sex trafficking victim, that 13, 14-year-old girl that had been put out by a pimp and literally sold almost from like slavery from a pimp in Memphis to a pimp in Houston to someone in Los Angeles, and can tell you story after story there, but to put them on the right track back, get them to some semblance of normalcy, and working in those types of lanes was very rewarding.
Is there any regrets? Anything you would do different? Any career move that you might have said, I should have stepped left instead of right?
I don't think so. I don't think I would have gotten where and I've had some setbacks and at the time I thought were some setbacks. But those were things I believe really were stepping stones to get where I was going. And so learning experience. And I don't think I get where and so you can't really be productive and effective if you hadn't been through anything. And so I think those things really prepared me for the U.S. Attorney's Office and the tough work that we did. And even now, and even as a father and a husband, I mean, just having been through some things, traveled around the world, and experiencing some things have really been instrumental in where I am now.
Cool. So if you could go back and talk to that young man at Idlewild, from where you are right now, what would you say to that kid?
Yeah, I think I would just say, work a little harder. You've got, sometimes just getting a B or, just getting by is not enough. I mean, again, there's too many folks that have literally given their life and just don't take things for granted, don't take life for granted. And so, but at the same time, continue to have fun. You got to have balance. It can be so laser focused on scholastics or something and you miss the quality of life. And so I don't have a lot of regrets, but I do think, again, I was a pretty good student. I think I could have been better. And just looking back, even in my profession now, attention to details, and I strive to be the best when I walk into a courtroom, when I'm representing a corporate client. I bring it 110%. We bring it. I mean, and that's a different game face. And so, there's nothing to substitute hard work and preparation. And so, and back then, there were some times that I know I just did enough just to get by because I was interested in video games, girls, and other stuff. And
like us all.
And probably should have been a little bit more focused, but otherwise, no regrets. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so here we are, the last question, and you got to leave everybody with the Ed Stanton III-ism. Best practice for life. These are middle school kids, middle school men, young men, guys, high schoolers, junior college guys. What would you leave them? If you could talk to them, that's him right there. If you could talk to him, what would you say to him?
I would simply say this. These are the only times I will tell you that you want to major in making some C's. And the first C is you got to have courage to stand out and step up, even sometimes when it's not popular. You're talking to a guy, again, that came up, father at the time and grandfather. I was the first male in my family to graduate from college. And so you can do it. The other C I would say would be to watch the company that you keep. If you look at your 3, 4, 5 best friends, the people that you hang around, make sure that you're not just the smarties. Everybody looked for you for good grades. Make sure that you are running with people that are stretching you to do greater things and to explore outside of even your comfort zone. It would pain me, Larry, when we would pull in my old job as U.S. attorney, that one bad move, a young man or woman would be in a car with the wrong company, and that whole life would take a trajectory turn because they say, nobody told me the dope was in the car, the drugs or the guns and the gangs. I would say have great character. I mentioned earlier conduct. The difference between conduct and character, I would submit to you, is conduct is the grade you get when someone is watching what you're doing. But character will take you even farther in life, and I believe that's one of the things. Not that you have to be perfect, but character is what you do when no one is watching. Have great character, and that will take you to, again, as you know, there was a very deep vetting White House appointment, that FBI background, and they wanted to know, what can you tell us about Ed Stanton when no one's watching? And then last but not least, the last C that I would submit is simply to have compassion. Compassion. I mentioned earlier that quote from Dr. King is, it's not about how much money you make and how many people know your name, but what are you doing for others? Have compassion to give back to your community. When you make it big, when you have that big contract, when you make that first meal ticket off that great idea that you come up with, make sure that you have compassion to give back for those that are less fortunate.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, I told you we were going to bring another amazing Memphis icon. Listen, don't sleep on us. Keep coming back to the journey. We're going to bring another one, and they're going to be giving you the best practices for a successful life. Not saying they didn't fall down, not saying they didn't misstep, not saying they didn't twist their ankle and bump their head, but they got back up, straightened their course, and kept going in a positive direction. So listen, till the next time, come back, The Journey on the KUDZUKIAN Network. I'm Larry Robinson, thanking our guest, Ed Stanton.
Appreciate you.
Listen, come back. Talk to you soon. Thank you to our partner, the Grand Boulé of Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity, Delta Chapter. To hear more incredible stories like this, be sure to download the KUDZUKIAN app from the App Store or Google Play, or check out the Journey Memphis podcast on all your major podcast providers. Also, check us out on the KUDZUKIAN Network.